Hey everybody, Dustin Dale's back here once again. I'm at the Funny Bone Comedy Club, 168th and Dodge, Village Point Mall, and I know it's Christmas season, so the parking lot's busy, but I'm telling you, half the people are here for the comedy club this weekend. You don't want to miss this show. Come check it out. This weekend we got Paul Mecurio. He's in town
Hey, folks.
all the way through Sunday. Paul, how you doing, bud?
Yeah, man, good to see you.
Good to see you. I appreciate you hanging out for a little bit.
Absolutely. You wore your red Santa. You got that whole thing going on.
It's my early Santa suit.
Yeah, you spilled a little booze on it, but that's all right. We'll get it clean later.
They can't smell the vodka, all right?
How you doing, man?
I'm good. You know, I'm just trying to survive the winter. How you holding up with the winter?
Good. Good. I live in New York, so I'm kind of used to the cold, and but it's, you live in that city, and you see some like. There was a rat the other night, and this is true. Like, you think New York, you think rats. They're there, okay? But they're usually, like, late at night when you're not around. So this was, like, about 8 o'clock at night, and this rat ran right in front of me holding a whole green apple in its mouth. And I'm not, this isn't a bit for a joke. This actually happened. The apple was, like, one of those big Granny Smiths, like that big.
Gosh.
And it's just like that. And I was looking at it, and the first thing in my mind is, good for him, he's eating healthy. He's working out, he's running. He was ripped. He had, like, you could see. And I yelled, like, go rat! But he didn't hear me because he had these little earbuds in and because he was working out. No, New York's definitely interesting. The other thing that happened recently, but there are freaks all over the country, but this happened to happen in New York. There was a woman about 2.5 weeks ago, and they found, and I'm not making this up, 40 frozen cats in her freezer.
Oh, my gosh.
40. And the first thing that went through my mind was, wow, either that's a really big freezer or this woman really knows how to pack a cat. I mean, how do you fit 40 cats in a freezer? I'm thinking like a big one above or like below the. I don't know. That's the way my mind works. But yeah, it's an interesting place to live. I didn't grow up there. I grew up in Rhode Island in New England. But I love coming here. People are really nice. Omaha is like my hometown of Providence, Rhode Island. It's like the same size, same mix of people, so I really like it. I feel real at home here.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Big. Is there much of a difference between the crowds you would get here and your hometown?
No, not really. Maybe, I think you have, 2 black people here. I mean, so if they want to come out, I'm a big fan, No, there's a big Italian contingent here, and I'm Italian, and so it's really not. It's, like, pretty similar. And I grew up, like, really Italian. Although when you hear you're Italian, people, like, think the mafia part, which is actually kind of true. I got my cousin who runs numbers. It's true. My cousin Bobby runs numbers, and he sells stuff out of the trunk of his car, that fell off the truck, like suits, ratchets. And at one time, I'm not making this up, he was selling car alarms that he stole out of other people's cars. and it's like, and then he came, picture John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever. It's my cousin Bobby. He's still, like, to this day, he's like one of these guys. He went to high school. He wasn't going to go to college. He's like, I'm going to make $1 million the easy way, right? So he's like, he stands on the street corner like this, and the legs are always moving, like he's got a live snake in his pants. Like, hey, how you doing? How you doing? And he came to my father's funeral in a fluorescent orange silk shirt, unbuttoned, gold chains, white patent leather belt, white slacks, and you're like a creamsicle with chest hair, right? And white mesh loafers, but no socks because it was the summer. So he put powder on his feet to keep them dry. But he put too much powder, so every time he'd step toward the casket, puffs of white smoke were coming out of the tops. I swear to God. And I'm like, oh, somebody nominated a pope. I guess that's where it comes from, the tops of his shoes. So the whole family is just this, like, it's family. It's like, they came over for Thanksgiving, and I'm like, Thanksgiving with the family, especially with this political year, like, you don't want to talk politics. So I had these little, and you can do this at home, I had these little tricks. First is, to avoid conversation, I broke out a new IKEA table and I made everybody help me put it together. That was about 6 hours. Everybody was exhausted. We had turkey and then we all fell asleep. And then the other one, the trick you can do is just do the grace before you eat. Just do it for like 2-3 hours. Nobody talks, then you eat and then you go home. Those are 2 ways to avoid talking during the holidays to your family. But yeah, it's always fun to go home. But I like traveling on the road too.
There's definitely some people in my holiday dinners that I'm going to use that technique
you know
on because there's some people that I'd rather not talk to, but I don't have to.
Exactly. You just sort of or you just suddenly start talking about like what it is to like football. Even if people hate it, just talk about football until somebody just goes, "I can't talk about football anymore." I'm like, good. Well, then the dinner's over. Get out. But yeah, it's fun to go home. because when you're away from home and then you've been back, you realize what characters people are. Like my cousin Bobby had this other thing going. His other scam was my mother has a furniture store, so he came to visit my mother, and he goes, "Hey, Mom, Auntie Tina, Auntie, I'm selling mattresses now." And she goes, "What do you know about mattresses?" He goes, "What's to know?" He goes, "I go to a junkyard. I find some used mattresses. I get some Chinese guy to cover them for $50. I sell them for $600. Nobody knows." She's like, "Bobby, get out of my store. I don't want to talk to you."
Now, you got a different background than most people. You actually went to law school.
Yeah.
How do you go from law school to being a stand-up comedy?
Big drug problem. I was writing jokes as a hobby, and I was doing these Wall Street M&A deals, and then one thing led to another, and I got to see Jay Leno at a private function. And boom, I went up to him afterwards, and I had these jokes, and I'm like, "I don't know if you need jokes, you want jokes, whatever, but you can have them." And he took them, and the next day he called me, and he hired me to send in jokes for the Tonight Show monologue. And then he goes, "I'll pay you $50 a joke." And then I'm like, "Okay." And I'm like, he goes, "What do you do for a living?" I'm like, I'm a lawyer. He goes, "Oh, I knew it." I go, "Why?" He goes, "Your setups are way too wordy. You write like a lawyer." He goes, "Cut it down. Get to the joke." So I started sending him jokes, and then 5 days later, he calls me and says, "I'm going to do one of your jokes on the Tonight Show." And he paid me $50 for the joke, and it blew my head off my shoulders. And then I started to go try. He said, "Go try the jokes out before you sell them to me," and I did. And I just became like obsessed with writing and telling jokes. And I would go around to these like dive bars in New York City, working open mic nights. One of the places I worked was actually called Downtown Afghanistan 2. And I liked the 2 because apparently they were franchising these dive bars, or somebody blew up one, and it was literally like a dysfunctional Cheers. A hooker worked out of there. They dealt drugs out of there. There was a sign on the men's room door that said, "The toilet seats only to be used to go to the bathroom, not to cut coke. Thank you, the management." And it said, "Thank you, the management." And it was literally like the kind of place, like it didn't have a bouncer. It had a chalk outline of a bouncer. It was just like, and it just became, that was my life. And I'd sneak out of work, and I'd go do those shows, and then I'd go back to work, and I got heckled once by a guy who had just gotten in a knife fight with another guy, and he threw all these bloody napkins at me, and I said, "Nice to be here. I always wanted to follow a slashing," which I thought was a pretty good line. And then he threw the bloody napkins at me, and I'm like, maybe this isn't such a good idea after all. And so then, but I kept doing it, and then I eventually was like, you know what? And by the way, after I got the blood thrown on me, the bloody napkins, I had blood all over my shirt, and I went back to the firm, and the lawyer, I walked into a conference room, and I was trying to hide it with like a file folder. And the guy goes, "Why do you have a blood stain on your shirt?" Like the senior partner. And I didn't know what to say. And I wasn't telling anybody about this other life I was leading. So I'm like, "Oh man, my secret's out." And before he goes, "Why do you have a blood stain on your shirt?" And before I could say anything, the lawyer goes, "What kind of shirt is that?" I go, "It's a Brooks Brothers shirt." "Why?" He goes, "I know how to get blood out of a Brooks Brothers shirt." I'm like, "What?" He goes, and another guy, lawyer goes, "No, Armani, that's the shirt you want when you get blood." I go, "Are you guys remaking American Psycho? Like, what is going on here?" So it was like 2 years of living this double life, and I was about to have a nervous breakdown, and I'm like, if I don't go and do this full time, I'm going to regret it. And so I jumped in and sold my apartment, and then started doing stand-up, and then got on The Daily Show after that, a little while after that, and then that kind of turned into other stuff. So, but it was kind of crazy. It was totally unexpected. Like, I didn't wake up, go, "I'm going to leave Wall Street and go tell jokes for $50 and get blood thrown at me." And it's like, so, I don't know. It just happened, you know?
Well, it definitely worked out for you.
Yeah.
We've seen you all over television, and I'm looking forward to seeing you a lot more, but we can also hear you
Yes.
every week as well, right?
Yeah, I'm going to be, I have a podcast called Two Chairs and a Microphone, and it's on iTunes, and it's on Audio Boom, and I've had guests like Paul McCartney, Louis Black, Stephen Colbert. Do I have a minute to tell you how I got Paul McCartney?
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
You've got as long as you need to tell that story.
All right, I got to get my phone for this, but I'll start talking while I look for my phone. I know this isn't the most professional thing in the world. This is my jacket, by the way.
Nice handy jacket.
And this is my wallet, and this is where all the money isn't. No, what happened was I was working on the Colbert Report, and by the way, a lot of comics have been on it. Larry the Cable Guy's on it. Todd and Tyler, we just did them. So, but also actors, Bryan Cranston, Bob Costas, Sugar Ray Leonard, so all these A-level guests.
Wow.
And it's called Two Chairs and a Microphone. It's free subscriptions. Just subscribe, give us your email. Every Monday we give you a new one, and it's really like, I like to talk to people about process. So the the Paul McCartney thing came about because he was doing a show at the Colbert Report. I was working on the show, and I'm rounding the corner, and he had just finished rehearsal. And after he was done with rehearsal, he's just hanging out in the hallway all alone, leaning up against the wall like this, chewing gum, looking up at the ceiling. And I'm like, oh my God, that's Paul McCartney. What the heck is going on? I'm just setting something up here. I'm not being rude. And my world slows down. I'm like, oh my God, that's Paul McCartney. Should I say hi? Should I not say hi? And I'm like, you know what? He's alone in a hallway. He's like a gazelle on the Serengeti Plains. I'm going to pounce. So I go up. I go, hey, nice to meet you. He goes, hey, man, nice to meet you. He goes, what's your name? I go, Paul. He goes, oh, Paul, that's a good name. I'm like, hey, I'll do the jokes, all right, buddy? Back off. I'm the comedian. You just play Love Me Do, all right? No. And he goes, what do you do? I go, stand-up. Oh, I love stand-up. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. I knew Richard Pryor and this and that. And he goes, do you travel? I travel. 5-10 minutes go by. I'm talking to Paul McCartney like I'm talking to you. Mm-hmm. Now, on the outside, I'm all like, you know, smooth and hip, whatever. But on the inside, I'm like, I'm talking to Paul McCartney. Like I was out of my mind, like those girls you see in the 60s who would scream at the Beatles. And as I'm talking to him, I'm getting closer and closer to his face. Like, because he's Paul McCartney, so I'm like getting this close. Like, you know those chimps on the Discovery Channel that clean like ticks off their mate? Oh, yeah. I could have cleaned ticks off his eyebrows. I was that close. Like I was, and then I'm like, I'm just gonna leave the guy alone. I go to the bathroom. I start hyperventilating. I call my wife. Like, you're not gonna believe I told Paul McCartney. I hang up the phone. I say, Paul McCartney should do my podcast. That's delusional. That's like,
of course,
right?
That's what everyone would think.
Right, exactly. So because I like to talk to people about process, especially musicians. So I'm like, okay. I go, knock on the door. I go in the dressing room. Excuse me, I know this is crazy, but would you do my podcast? I'd love to talk about how you make music. He goes, yeah, sure. Just like that. Like, now, you know there's that hot girl or hot guy in high school you always want, they're way above your pay grade, but you're like, I'm going to ask them out. They'll say no, but at least I'll know when I'm 90 I asked them out. Instead they say yes and you don't have a plan. That was me. He goes, yeah, sure, how would we do it? And these are the actual sounds that came out of my voice. I'll come to London. And he's like, why would you come to London? We're in New York together. And he goes, is it easy to do? I go, yeah, it's really easy. You could do it on your phone, naked from your toilet. I'm like, what am I saying? So now I'm completely flustered. And I don't get flustered easily anymore. I'm like, look, I'll just go talk to your assistant and they'll set it up. And she goes, no. He goes, they're going to just mess it up. You and I will do it. I go, what do you mean? He goes, you and I, we'll just exchange numbers. But when I call you, we got to be ready to do it. I'm like, okay, so now my hand is shaking as I'm handing my phone number to Paul McCartney. And I did say, I'm not going to sleep with you, old man. I'll tell you that right now. No. And I think I got the nicest blow-off on the face of the planet. Fast forward, he does the show. He's amazing. He leaves. I'm rushing to get to the Daily Show. I don't recognize the number. So I let it ring the voicemail. Uh-oh. And this is the...
Hey, Paul, it's Paul McCartney here. I'm going to ring you back in 5 minutes to do the podcast thing. I've got some time now. Otherwise, I'm going to run out of time. So if you're there in 5 minutes' time, you got me. Okay, bye.
Holy crap.
Crazy, right?
That's insane.
And I called him back and say, never call me again.
Of course.
Why are you stalking me? No, and then I called him back and we did the podcast. And I have an interview with Paul McCartney on there. Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's really cool. So there's something for everybody. If you like acting, if you like music, if you like sports, if you like astronomy and science, Neil deGrasse Tyson, check it out. 2 chairs and a microphone.
Check it out. Make sure you come out this weekend at the Funny Bone Comedy Club.
Come out.
168th and Dodge all weekend long, all the way through Sunday.
All the way.
Tons of shows you can check
5
out.
shows.
Paul Mecurio, thank you very much for hanging out with me.
Hey, man, a lot of fun. Thank you. Good for the Santa look, too. I like that red.
Thank you. I'm working on it. Take care, guys.
Buddy.